what we try to do is we try to educate the public, the traveling public, so that you can work through that stress with advanced planning to give you a little bit of peace of mind. Opinions, opinions, opinions. So when Margaret asked me to speak, this is the first time that I'm speaking to a Parkinson's group per se. I went through and I tried to gather resources and just read and find out what other people, what other scientists, what other studies had been done. And so I drew a lot from the Michael J. Fox Foundation. The Parkinson's UK group was really cool. I was really impressed with how advanced they are, how progressive they are with their techniques and the things that they had to share. The Parkinson's Foundation here at the US level. And then I call my last one Stella's Living the Life Tips. I told you that my dad had Parkinson's. My dad actually started our company, Tour Plan International, in 1966. So he has been traveling since Hector was a pup. And so traveling has been in our blood forever. And we have been working together since his diagnosis in 2017 and coming up with real life tips, not what you read, not what is a study among people that you don't know. So I call these my real life tips. I'm going to try to incorporate all of those into this presentation. Oh, and I have a funny thing to tell you too. I have two sisters and a brother. And again, both parents being Parkinson's, there's a little bit of scariness here on our end. But when I told them I was doing this presentation, my one sister said, well, what do you know about this anyway? And I loved it. And I was thinking about it going, because we've been living this. We've been living this. And so many people have, and it's amazing how many clients we have at Tour Plan and how many people travel with us, that even though sometimes they won't even tell me that they have Parkinson's, you identify it and you see them living, you see them traveling, you see them doing what they want to do. Planning ahead, as I mentioned, the key to relieving that stress. So a lot of these things you're going to find are not necessarily just for, again, people that have PD or some kind of movement disorder, period. Do you have medical clearance to travel? Have you actually spoken with your doctor? And has that doctor said, yes, you may travel? Has that doctor said to you, yes, you may travel, but we'd really feel more comfortable if you had someone traveling with you? So these are some ideas as you're planning on where you want to go and how you're going to get there to start thinking through. So that again, there's no unexpected surprises at the end. And what you will have is a very clearly thought out plan. Who's traveling with you? A lot of times it's a family member, right? Other times it could be an aide. You could probably even find, like a nurse, a traveling nurse, depending on where you are. It is something that I would recommend that you start thinking about right away. I had that picture of the passport up there because that's huge. If you're thinking about going outside of the US, because obviously without a passport, you're not going anywhere. So be sure that you plan carefully and that you have validity on your passport and that whoever is planning to travel with you also has a valid passport on them. Ask your doc if there are any places that perhaps are not viable for you. So what do I mean? If you're going to Florida, I'm thinking you're going to be good. Anywhere you go in Florida, and actually most places that you're going to go domestically in the US, you're going to have access to the same kind of care that you might find here. It may not be the level of care that you're receiving now, but at least it's the same kind of care. We happen to have a house in Cayman Brac. Cayman Brac is a rock in the ocean. So it is a beautiful, beautiful destination, but there's nothing there. So we have to be really careful about planning trips to the BRAC, for example, if you need a really high-end neurologist, if you need, a really high-end nephrologist, whatever your issues might be, to see, is that good? And if the doctor has said to you, by the way, you're not going to Africa, I don't care where, or you're not going to Haiti. And that's probably not a good time to go to Haiti anyway, right? But pay attention to those, ask those questions before you start coming up with this bucket list dream trip and then being told, no, you're not going there. Okay, or we would recommend that you not go there. Where do you want to go and how do you want to get there? Just because there's Parkinson's doesn't mean that you can't do what you want to do, right? Sometimes we have to tweak what it is, but what are some things that you want to do in your life? Start thinking about that. And how would you get there? Would you consider going by air? Would you consider going by sea, by train, by car? One of the coolest things that we have found, and the bulk of the people with whom I work as clients actually are cruisers. Now, we're not talking about the 6,000 people vessels. We're talking about, in most cases, like river cruises. You have vessels that there's no ocean, there's no motion. You're very close to land at all given times. You're going through all kinds of different countries, you're unpacking once, blah, 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 blah. And then when they are stopping, if they're extending their stay, they're using private drivers. When I first started working, I'm not going to tell you when, because then you know how old I am. Private drivers were something that, like the artist formerly known as Prince would use, not us, because it was too expensive. But now, more and more, and especially since COVID, it is amazing to see how reasonable it is to have a private driver. We use them pretty much for all of our clients now because they realize the commodity, how comfortable it is, how affordable it is. And again, the goal being, we want to get you to where you want to go with the greatest peace of mind, right? Let somebody else do the driving so that you can look out the window and say, look at that bird, look at that house, let's stop at this place. Once you've decided where you want to go, are you comfortable doing the research yourself? I don't know how many of you are retired. There are so many people now that you have a lot of time on your hands, right? So, and some people just love it. They love the research. And we encourage that actually. We encourage people to do the research so that when they come to us as advisors, we can kind of let them know our opinion, but it's very important, to know what it is that you want to do. So are you comfortable doing the research yourself and booking everything on your own? If not, do you have a trusted advisor that can assist? So I'm sure most of you have financial advisors, or you have medical advisors, you have spiritual advisors, whatever. So enter the realm of the travel advisor. So the role of the travel agent has changed so much over the years, but now the official name is actually a travel advisor. So at my company, we take it very seriously that we are not order takers. We do not book, Richmond, Chicago round trip with a Hertz car, with a blah, 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 blah. That's not who we are. What we are is, Stella, I want to go to Orvieto. E quando sono lì voglio vedere per esempio una chiesa, voglio andare a un bel mausoleo, voglio vedere questo. Just checking to make sure that you guys are still awake and noticing that I switched over to Italian for you. That's what we do. Okay, so we advise. So when you're looking for a travel advisor, always look for someone who's a member of ASTA, the American Society of Travel Advisors. There are not a lot of us left here in the Richmond area, but there are plenty to go around. Obviously, I have left my card. If anyone is interested, give me a call. But otherwise, if you have someone else with whom you're working, please use them. Any questions at this point?
How does somebody in your profession be compensated?
Great question, great question. So the question is, how is someone in my profession compensated? And so not to give you a history lesson, but again, initially, when travel agents first existed, especially here in the US, we were paid a commission by the different vendors for whom we sold products. So when we sold an airline ticket, typically the commission that we would receive was 10%. Whether you bought the airline ticket through me, Tour Plan, or through Delta Airlines, the price of the airline ticket was still gonna be $300. If you bought it through Delta, they would keep the whole 300. If you bought it through me, I would keep $30, okay? That model still stands true for a lot of tour companies and hotels. So we call that the traditional agent vendor relationship. As things have progressed, and as the airlines, for example, the airlines stopped paying commission to any agents years and years and years ago. And so you saw what started out the beginning of service fees. Initially, they were called booking fees. Sometimes they're called transaction fees. But that is one way that advisors are compensated. The newest thing and what we use, again, because we're in a pretty specific niche in what we do. I do have advisors on our team that can sell anything. Okay, Carnival Cruise, sandals, Disney World. What we do is, again, people come to me and say, Stella, I need for you to plan something for Italy. I need to research my family's roots. And I need to go to this village, and then I don't want to drive. I want you to get me here. And I want you to tell me exactly where the bathrooms are going to be in this cathedral. Okay, it's that detailed. And they tell me, I really want to book it on my own. So everybody laughs, but it's the truth. So what we have started doing is much the same as any other advisor. We actually now work with consultation fees. And so the consultation fees, depending on the advisor, the level, the experience that they have, at our agency, they start at $300. I no longer work on individual travel, but when I did, my fee, just to give you a high end, was $500.
For a trip, for.
That's a one-time, it's a one-time trip fee. And so that way, when you come to me and you say, Stella, this is what I wanna do, I spend an hour with you, we get to know each other. And then I come back to you with a price and with some ideas, right? And then I say, you're free to book it on your own, if you feel comfortable with it, or I can do it for you. If I do it for you, if I work with companies that recognize the agency vendor relationship, then there's no extra cost. However, most people want to stay in that cute little Maragores, for example, in Spain, where they don't care who books it. No, I'm not gonna give you any commission. So if I want to book that for you, okay, and use my Portuguese, Spanish skills, then I'm gonna charge you some kind of a booking fee. And that's usually between a 10 to a 20%, depending on the advisor with whom you work. But again, everything is upfront. You guys all watch the news, try not to watch the news, but you still hear them anyway. But all this stuff that's going on with the airlines now and with the hoteliers trying to cut out the middleman, which is great because now the average consumer can spend 3 hours on the phone with American Airlines instead of the usual 20 minutes. But we're very, very upfront with that. Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question about the advisor and the role that they would play. I just got back from 22 days of going to Scotland, England, Spain, and France. And we did a lot of research in the group that we went with. The problem that we ran into now, when I travel, I use canes a lot. And I've switched from a regular cane to a trekking cane because they collapse smaller and they're better. I used to use trekking poles, but in the group that I was with, there were 2 other people and they had their trekking poles taken from them. And they looked at mine because trekking poles have a solid tip on the front. And if you put the rubber stop, it's fine, but they considered them dangerous. And this is not only the airlines took them, but even England took them. They said if you put them in your check bag, it's okay, but if you put it in your check bag, what good is it? So would the advisor be able to help us determine these kind of issues? Because when I researched everything, it said nothing. It allowed collapsible canes and the trekking cane is a collapsible cane. And they did allow mine, but they took my friend's for 2 trekking poles that she needed. I always have one in the luggage, so I let her use it, but when we got there, they wanted to take that one as well. So even going through customs, they were a little concerned about that. So would the advisor help us or somebody like me with BD to identify those? Because no matter how much research I did, I never found an airline that said no. And I never saw anything on the UK or Scotland or even France and Spain or the cruise ship that we ended up on eventually that would not allow that. But they did not allow those things. So how do we plan if you can't find it? Would the advisor actually help? I know it's a long question, but.
No, that's a great question. And it's interesting because again, when I was doing my research and looking at the different sources, one of the things that especially the Parkinson's UK group said is be sure when you travel, when you are talking with your agent advisor, let them know your limitations, let them know what you have. It's like I just told you, I have people that travel with me that for whatever reason, they don't want to tell me that they have Parkinson's. If you let an advisor know that you have Parkinson's, then yes, it is our job. It is our job to check, to make sure. Do you use a mobility device? What are you using? Does it require batteries? Same thing goes with meds. What are you taking as medicine? And we'll talk about this in a minute with the medicines. But are you doing any kind of injections that require needles? Are you requiring refrigeration? So yes, an advisor should help and would help in a case like that. But the onus comes down to you as the traveler. Let me know. Don't let me guess that you have PD. Don't let me guess that you're diabetic. Because I don't want to assume. We all know what happens when you assume, right? So, yes.
Just to clarify what the gentleman was talking about, we're going on a trip next week and I had planned for my husband to have the tracking. And it's just the airlines that were the problem, not anywhere like once you got to like Germany or England or anything like that. It's a problem with using those. Am I understanding that correctly?
I would have to check on that honestly, because there are, for example, some bus companies. Let's say that you're going along with a tour company, okay, or you're doing a cruise. There are specific rules, that each of these carriers might have. But yes, we would certainly address those. As far as I know, What he is talking about, yes, in terms of a carry-on bag, they're not gonna let you do it.
Right.
Because they're thinking it's just like a knitting needle,
Right.
right? And we can't take those on board.
But it's, you can check it, is my question.
You can check it, and so then the question would be. For each individual mode of transportation or accommodation, do any of those have anything in place that would prohibit you bringing something like that in?
Well, and even if they did confiscate it, I'm right there. It's not
Right.
Like it's the airline where you're stuck, so, okay, thanks.
Right, right. You guys have good questions. That's a good one. Yes.
To follow up on that, I've used walking sticks, collapsible ones for years. And when I traveled on a plane, I would go up to the stewardess and say, this is an adaptive device for me, I have to have it. And if there was a problem with not having it on the overhead or anything, they would take it and store it for me up front where it was safe, I couldn't puncture anybody. And then they would return it to me and I'd probably be the first person that they would let off the plane sometimes too, because they needed to get that to me. So it's another alternative to
So
check.
again, going back to what I kept reading in there, make sure everyone knows that you have Parkinson's. When I read that, I said, why do I gotta let everybody know? This is why. Yes,
I just wanted to ask, a walking stick and walking, and how are they different than a hiking pole?
What
the
they're
same
worried
thing.
about is
It's
the
the same
pointy
thing.
part of it, like I will use that if I'm hiking, but if I use a rubber stopper,
Never had it.
so.
And
but it is the same thing. It basically is the same thing because my dad also uses hiking sticks.
Yeah.
And you have the rubber thing at the bottom, but even then, if a passenger were to walk onto an airplane, or if you went through security without a lot of explanation, then it could be grounds for them saying, no, you can't bring it on.
Yes, I have some hiking friends, two women, over 70, and they're doing the El Camino,
Mhm.
all 500 miles.
They're doing the whole thing? Wow.
And like I said, they're over 70, high achievers, and they always have their poles, and I have never heard them ever say that they had difficulty. I mean, they have them down in their bags, they're collapsible. Maybe
Yeah,
it's
that's all.
because they haven't seen them.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's part of it.
Yeah, and again, a lot of it too is, for example, when you're going through security. We're gonna talk about TSA and global entry too. But when you're going through security, it helps to let them know, to let the guards know, when you're going through it, yeah, I have a collapsible walking stick, I'm going hiking, here's my hiking hat, can't you see? I got part of the badge for the Camino already, I'm going for the rest of it,
Please try again.
so, yes.
It would probably help if you had some sort of note from your doctor saying that you need to be.
You've been looking at my presentation, haven't you? So again, what's interesting is that these observations that you're making now, I did not find on the US side on our foundations, but they were very much on the UK one. And they were saying travel with a doctor's note stating that you have Parkinson's and all of this stuff. Which I thought was really cool. And then I don't think we have any physicians, not that I recognize anyway, but I wonder, is that a thing? I mean, I can tell you all day long, I do chef cards for people in different languages. If people are gluten-free, if they have, celiac or whatever kind of shellfish allergy, so that they can carry those with them. I think a doctor's note would be great to go along with extra prescriptions and everything else. Yes, sir.
Just to add about the doctor's note, I have several issues because I have a feeding tube, so I have doctor's note allowing me for my feeding food to be on a carry-on bag as well as in my check bag. What I learned after the first time, you need to be specific. So in that doctor's note, it actually said that I will be either traveling with 2 calorie boost, and it's not the kind you buy in the store. So that they actually look for those names. Now, for the trekking pole and my cane, they were specific about it. So that they know exactly when you show it to them, they can check it and they say, okay, you're allowed. They will still check your item for hidden explosive. Believe it or not, they actually check my cane for hidden explosives.
Oh, yeah.
And they will actually check it, but the doctor's note is very important if you get it, but it has to be specific to what they're asking, what you're taking on, because if you don't, they're gonna say, it's not specific enough, we can't allow it. So,
Same goes again with medication.
yes,
There are, I don't know if any of the medications that are taken for Parkinson's are actually life-sustaining. But I have clients that are double lung transplant patients. If they don't take their meds, see you later, bye. So they also have to travel with very explicit. These medicines are life, they are necessary for me to live. So again, these are things we learn, with time, we learn. After you go through many, many security points and TSA officers, these are the things that are good to know. Yes.
I've been doing some research on how to get into having just gotten back from England, I noticed a big difference there that they have available versus being in France last year.
Yes.
But something that was mentioned in an article I was reading was TSA Cares, to be sure to fill out the TSA Cares form. And that was the first time I'd heard that. Do you know what that is?
I do not, but I'm gonna find out.
And then it said also, tell your airlines and everything. You get.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I can see that it would work. I think even with just regular TSA pre-check, that works. Let me see what I've got on my next slide. We're already to other places we'll go. I was gonna give you some suggestions, okay, just in case. It seems like you guys have already been all over the place anyway.
Right.
But let's look where, when you're trying to narrow down, where is it that you want to go? I narrowed it down between land-based vacations and cruises. And again, this is Stella's land of living this life. Where am I seeing people going? European villas or all the above? Think about it. You have your own villa for usually a week, sometimes 2 weeks. You can follow the same routine that you have at home, but you're going to be in Italy, in Tuscany doing that, okay? You can invite as many people as you want because you'll have, you can select the number of bedrooms that you want. You can cook your own meals if you have any kind of dietary restriction. You can bring chefs in. So very, very comfortable. And believe it or not, now affordable. Not talking about Airbnbs or VRBOs, that are mostly like apartment units. I'm talking about like a serious villa, a standalone home like what we live in here, as an example. Other ideas, beach cottages. Again, same concept, but no airplane. You can drive. When you're looking at hotels, what are the things to look for in a hotel? Accessibility. These things are, you think about them right away. Having your room placed close to an elevator. If you have problems with mobility, come on. It makes sense, to have something where you're not gonna have to schlep, to go to dinner or to go out or whatever. In hotels, for example, with accessibility, you should be able to have shower seats. You should be able to have all of these different things. Again, letting the hotel know that you need these in advance. Don't wait until you get there and then say, oh yeah, by the way, I need grab handles, I need a shower, seat, I need this and that. Advanced planning, get rid of the stress. Get all those questions answered, and if you haven't thought about them, have the advisor think about them and do it that way. We talked about cruises a little bit. So the larger versus the smaller ships. So right now there are so many different kinds of cruises all over the world, and they're beautiful. You unpack once and you see like all these different places. Ocean cruises that used to be like humongous liners are now actually even getting bigger. To where they truly are, they're not even floating resorts anymore, I think they're floating towns. Yet you also have smaller ones. You have ocean liners or expedition cruises that, 120, 200 people. That's doable, right? Yes,
We've been doing a lot of cruises and something that comes to mind about the size of the ship. And we're biased to Princess because there are generally very few kids. Now I can see people with mobility issues, she doesn't have them yet, but that's something else you want to also research is who's on that cruise ship. And a lot of the kids are gonna run around. And I might be in their way.
yeah, I mean, I'm a grandmother, I have 2 grandchildren, both boys that are demented. But I love children. But when I'm on vacation, I don't want you cannonballing in front of me when I'm reading my romance novel at the pool. And again, if I've got a walker, I don't want you in front of me. So I get it. And kids, yeah, you're still here. I'm not talking about you, because you guys are awesome. I can tell right away.
And most all of them will allow a 4-wheel. or
They will.
3-wheel.
Princess, actually, we're doing an Alaska cruise. Very, very simple, leaving out of Seattle, round trip, doing the Inside Passage in August. And it's amazing how much interest we've had in that. And how people are like, yeah, sure, I'll go.
Dietary too. they're
And dietary, now they have so many choices, and not only at the domestic level, or Caribbean level. My daughter has celiac, and she just got back from Portugal. She went to see Taylor Swift, everything. And then Paris, they went to the French Open. I'm like, why is it that I'm the mother and I'm the one that's working, but anyway. She was telling me how much easier it actually is to find good, tasty, gluten-free items in Europe and overseas as compared here to the US.
One last thing too is Google Translator.
The bomb. If you can't have Stella going with you, then use Google Translate.
Especially Rome.
Not super.
So
Now,
I
At least
actually.
in German, it's not super.
Okay, so that's really funny that you said Germany. When I was on a river cruise, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I had a client that went into AFib on the ship. It was the very last day. And so the brig was supposed to be going from Beachhaven to Prague. And I said, I'm not leaving this lady alone. So we went to the hospital in Beachhaven, Germany. No English. I'm like, dude, come on, man. I speak Italian. I can understand Spanish, Portuguese, French, I can dabble in, Romanian, but you give me German, I got nothing. So, but what saved me, honestly, was the medical Latin terms, because when I lived in Italy, I took 6 years of Latin. So, yes, for the win. But yeah, Google Translate for German was not good.
No.
Yes.
So we're going back home in the end of June. And where I'm from, it can get very hot, but we hardly any house has central air conditioning. So we're giving an Airbnb because we're bringing our dogs with us. And one thing I didn't think about when I was, all I saw was they have 7 dogs in the fenced in yard. And then I thought, he needs air conditioning, not a fan blowing around or a ceiling fan. He needs air, he said, do they have air conditioning? I'm like, I don't even know. I guess I should have really, and they do, but I'm just saying the majority of the homes are bigger.
And, speaking of air conditioning, this is just a fun little tidbit. In Italy, especially since COVID and because of all the interest towards conserving energy and climate change and everything, you know that the hotels and even some of the homes, they are regulated to where the temperature will never, you can't set the AC. So a woman would feel comfortable during menopause. It is only gonna go up to a certain level. And that's it. And you can't call down to the front desk and say, I'm hot, I'm hot, I'm hot. It's just that way. So if you run into that situation, they're not being ugly and saying that they can't turn it on. Sometimes it's actually government mandated. Yes,
Something we run into when trying to use river cruises from Europe. They say they have ADA rooms.
Mhm.
But we could not find one that would allow us, he has a scooter that folds up smaller than a wheelchair. And also either a walker, a rollator would fold up. We sent him dimensions, and this was like. Which one was here, some of the big ones, like Viking.
Viking.
And I've also talked to Pearl here in this country about doing their cruises. No, they have ADA rooms, but they won't let you bring anything on.
Some of these cruise ships also have the smaller boats that fit inside of the trailer. So that to disembark, all you have to do is step down, a single step, just get into the boat. And they still wouldn't allow any type of.
I mean.
So it's
been
interesting,
frustrating.
whenever, if you are ever considering a river cruise, we do a lot of AMA waterways. AMA it's a great little product, not little, actually, they have quite a few ships now. Viking is a great cruise line because they truly brought river cruising into our lives, into our living rooms, into our mailboxes 35 times a week. AMA came on after that. And so AMA ships are built a little bit differently. They can sail in a lower amount of water. But anyway, when I was doing training to be able to sell AMA, they always said, be careful about selling the AMA product to people that require assistance for mobility reasons. In order to go, for example, on an AMA waterways cruise, you have to be able to take 2 steps upward on your own, unassisted or with the assistance of someone that's traveling with you. So what is that? What does that mean? And don't ever put them at the bottom level. And I'm like, oh my God, what's at the bottom level? The elevator doesn't go there. So there's steps to get in there. So we figured out what the bottom level is. And by the way, when you book the very lowest passenger deck on the river cruises, that doesn't mean that you're looking at the bottom of turtles. When you look out out of your porthole, okay? So it just means that it's the lowest passenger deck. So that one, the 2 steps is because with river cruises, very rarely are you the only vessel that parks in a spot. So usually what they'll do is they'll have 1, 2, 3, sometimes even 4 vessels. And you may have to walk up to the sun deck rather than through the entry deck, right? And you can't be assisted by one of the staff members because of liability, because of whatever. So now those steps are little. You could do it. I mean, again, my mom's on a walker, my dad uses a walking stick, and they would not have any problem doing it. In terms of the storage, that is an issue. Now, what I would recommend for that, book a suite and have that little, your butler on speed dial. Can you bring me my phone? And then he can keep it somewhere else on ships and then bring it to you when you need it. Again, let the agent know, let your advisor know, let the cruise line know, and ask them, is that a possibility?
So far we didn't.
And with Princess, speaking of Princess, you are allowed to bring any of these things on. You're allowed to bring all kinds of motorized vehicles, things with wheels or whatever, but you have to let them know. There are passenger accommodation forms that have to be completed and they have to be kept on file with the cruise line. Yes, I think you had a
I
question.
was just gonna say, we did National Geographic last year, and they had no problem with this scooter. We also have a foldable handy scoot. And they kept it downstairs in their little locker room or whatever, and it was always ready for him. They were really good. They are not inexpensive.
Right, right. Okay,
Ask about this.
yes,
Flight delays and cancellations.
yes,
Has it become more of an issue lately?
yes, 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 yes. That the airlines. There's so many different things going on now with the airlines, okay? Flight delays, flight cancellations have always been an issue. Right now, we also have climate change issues and turbulence issues, things like that, that you may have read about. They're actually saying now that the turbulence, this extreme turbulence that is causing injuries is due to climate change. Are we gonna stop flying because of climate change? No. Are you gonna wear your seatbelt when you're seated on the airplane? Yes. You're told to do that anyway, right? So this is why. Now, how do you handle a flight delay? One of the things that we're gonna talk about towards the end is travel insurance. And that is huge. But yes, there are flight delays, there are flight cancellations. Things are better now than they were obviously during COVID and right after COVID. Right after COVID, the industry was a mess. Catastrophe, as they say in French. It was a mess. Because all of these pilots had been furloughed, all of these flight attendants, all of these techs, no one worked. Because there was nothing to fly, right? And then all of a sudden, we're back to full capacity and no one to know what was going on. And this not only affected the airline industry, but all of the industries. I have a cousin. I got a lot of cousins all over the world. She's a tour guide in Rome. And I mean, you just shake your head to see what's going on with the Vatican, with the tickets, with the Colosseum, and all of these things. And who do you gotta know to get a reservation in these places anymore? And finally, they're putting measures back in place to help with some of these delays and these big cancellations. But yes, you can count on that. I always start. When I was young, I was in Italy, so we didn't have Girl Scouts then. But then when we came here, I became a junior Girl Scout. And, you know, they always say, be prepared for the unexpected. Be prepared in any eventuality. You know, and so, yes, kind of know when you're booking flights. How do you avoid delays that sometimes cause you to miss the next flight? How do you do that? You take a direct flight if you can, number one. Right? If you have a choice between, you're going to Rome, okay? If you have a choice between going Richmond, JFK, Fiumicino, or you have a choice to go from Dulles to Rome nonstop. Is it a pain in the butt? Yeah, to drive to Dulles, yeah, it is, but I can hook you up with a private driver. It'll take that pain away from you. But at least if there's a delay, you're right there and you're waiting for that plane. There's nothing that you're gonna miss along the way, right? So big proponent of direct flights, and also if you travel with suitcases instead of just carry-on bags, another great reason to always use direct flights and air tags. They do work. Yes.
Wheelchairs on airlines, is there any advantages other than the obvious advantage of being taken from gate to where you go?
We recommend that if you have any kind of mobility issues, I don't care if you have a doctor's note or not, to request wheelchair assistance. And it is nothing to be ashamed of. When you get to the airport, there is nothing better than having that wheelchair waiting for you and being able to whisk you through security to your gate. And then again, they're gonna ask you, and you can request, this is something you can also do on your own online with the airlines, is request wheelchair assistance. Sometimes it's actually a wheelchair, other times it's just a cart, you know, which works just as well, again, depending on your mobility level. I always recommend it, always recommend it. I don't think there's anything to be concerned about. Yes.
I really like what you said about going to Dulles for direct flight, because that's what we've been doing. And they have this company called Park Sleep and Fly, where you can leave your car at one of the hotels that participates in that. And then you just have to promise to spend one night, which for us is always the one back. And then it seems to work well, but I'm very interested in your driver, because I'm wondering if he's about the same price.
Great, that's a great point. And we use a company called International Holidays, which is not available to the consumer, but you can book it through travel agents, travel advisors. And it's the same concept. So usually you can leave your car there for up to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you either have to stay at the beginning or at the end. These hotels offer shuttles from their resorts or from their properties to the airport. So that,
Just
You're
go
all set.
super early because you're getting it.
yeah, well, I'll pass on the information. Okay, back to reality here, guest to staff ratio. It was that National Geographic that you were talking about, Princess Cruises. Things are important, okay? When you're getting what you pay for, obviously. When on some of these, like on the river cruises and on some of the higher end ocean cruises, your guest ratio should be like one person might handle 4 to 6 guests. That's beautiful, if you can get that. So just one more little factor to look for when you're looking. Hacking. What everybody loves to hate, right? So pretty straightforward. I am a big proponent of packing cubes. They are wonderful, especially if you are putting like items together. So if you want to pack by day, especially if you're going somewhere where there's climate changes along the way, you can use something even like a Ziploc bag. And then you can take those and stick them in the Italy packing cube, and then one for the French one, and then one for the German one. So complete outfits together, including socks, wrinkle-free items with elastic waistbands, pullovers, button-free closures. Everybody's always asked me now, what about the compression socks? Do we need to wear those compression socks? That's a doc question. But I know that a lot of doctors do recommend those, especially if you are not taking any other kind of aspirin or anything like that. Toiletries, compartment style bag. Again, I have companies that I work with, that I just buy from. Not work with, and they're great, you know, things that you can hang so that you don't have to have necessarily the counter space, which again, especially if you're working with an ADA room, sometimes you don't get as much counter space because they're leaving it for the actual chair. This one I like, the name label to the assistive equipment, such as a walker, cane, or walking stick before packing, especially if you're doing any kind of a group trip and you have to be separated from your device and everybody has the same stick. So nobody knows, you know, whose is which. So I thought those were pretty good tips. Medicine. So medicines all need to go in a carry-on bag. No, there is no other way. Do not put your medicine in a checked bag because it may get there when you do, but it may not. And if you need that medicine, and most of us are taking medicine because we need it, right? So you're gonna wanna make sure that you have it with you. Carry all medications in original bottles with the name of the drug and the doctor's name on the label. I get busted every single presentation that I do. But I put mine in a little tray. I'm not gonna do that. I take 27 pills a day. I'm not gonna take time. Do it. Do it anyway, because if you don't, and let's say that you place your little tray thing in the back of the toilet. And boom, you're doing your hair and there it goes in the toilet. Did you lose 4 of them? Did you lose 3 of the pills? Where are they? Which ones am I missing for what they, don't do it. If you want, again, I'm going back to my double lung transplant dude, because he fought me the hardest. He has 4 trays, not the little things you buy at CVS, trays of medicine that he has to take. They're all timed. And he's like, but I've always done it this way, and this is the way that, and it's gonna work, and it's gonna work. I said, don't come to me, man. If something happens, I said, I can try to help you, but come on. I said, I'll make a deal. You carry the medicine in the original bottle. I'll carry your damn trays empty in my suitcase, and then I will come to your stateroom that night. We'll have a couple of glasses of wine and we'll organize all your meds at that time. That way you know that they're all together. Don't take a chance with that. Yes,
In the event of an emergency, the hospital, wherever you go, is gonna want to see that it's already bottled.
they are. And that brings me to another thing too, which again, the UK sites mentioned it, is to have an actual doctor's medicine schedule, okay, so that they can see it. But if you are working with a medicine that is life-sustaining for you, get the doctor to write you an extra script. And they're gonna hate you, and they're gonna hate me for even recommending it, because there is no such thing as a paper script anymore, right? But if you let them know, this is why I need it, if you can't give me that, give me an alternative. So I have been plenty of places now where we've been overseas and we need to get prescriptions filled. Not because we've lost them, but because something's happened and our 2-week stay has now become 16 days. So I'm 2 days shy and I need to take these medicines. So much easier to walk into a pharmacy or to walk into a hospital or a clinic when you've got a script there that actually has the real name of the medicine so that they can fill it for you right away. I like this one about keeping, include snacks, water, or juice to take with the medications. Pack some extras in case you're delayed or your supply is lost. I like the water thing. And also the snick snack thing. So you get on an airplane and you're seated and, you know, you're taxiing off and then, oh, I don't know, you know, there's a bird over there, there's something there and you're delayed and you're delayed. You gotta take your med. And the flight attendants can't come. Because they also have to be seated, right? What are you gonna do? Just a little baby bottle.
Can I back up the meds a bit?
Yeah.
I had this happen, and it's embarrassing, but if you're the person taking the meds, you're responsible for taking them from that hotel to the next hotel. Don't always rely on your spouse, even though they mean very well. Something may come up, they get distracted. What happened to us in Toronto, I realized that when we were crossing the border, the hotel had them, but they can't send them across country lines.
Oh,
I lost all those meds. Luckily, CPS restocked them. But again, I just want for one night. Anyway, just kind of as a think about it, you know, their spouses are great, they're wonderful, you can't live without them. But
well,
sometimes.
sometimes you can.
It's
It's a short period of time. How about that?
Anyway, it's just something you don't think about, but, you know,
Good point.
Speaking about medications in the original bottle, is that a legal responsibility or is it just really good common sense?
I think it's just good common sense.
Good question.
You need it.
And if I have an international law degree at UVA, then maybe I can.
Container boxes, you put them in for the day and. But you don't, going through customs, they don't want it there. Does it have to be in the original?
It depends on your customs agent.
Yeah, he
I
just
don't
said
think that legally,
There's no
I don't
legal-
think there's any legal restriction. To me, it's a common sense restriction. And also is a, let's be prepared and travel with peace of mind restriction. I can also tell you that depending on how snarky the agents are, depending on where you're traveling. I had a prescription nose spray. And I was in either Aruba or Curacao. And I got this man, and usually with the men, it's all good, you know, cause you can wink, you can do whatever, and they'll let you through with anything. This guy, bad day, end of the shift, I don't know. And he goes, nope, it had the prescription label on it. Okay? Over the limit for the 311. I'm like, but I need to have this. This is, and he goes, no, it's just the saline nasal spray. And I said, no, it's not. I said, look at this. Second mistake, arguing with the damn customs officer. Yeah, don't do it. He took it. Again, one more reason to have had that script with me. Now, as luck would have it, I belong to one of these concierge medicine practices, Partner MD. And so all I had to do was just send them a message and say, this button, blah, 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 blah. And so they had it called in for me so that I could pick it up at my next stop. But yeah, yes.
Also, with your travel advisor or online, there are some medicines that are perfectly legal in the United States that are not, at least they're not legal in many countries, including parts of Europe, a lot of ADHD medicines and stuff like that. So just know that, just like check your meds before.
And check availability. This is something that comes up, you know, personally for my dad. Okay, he takes a whole slew of PD meds. And when we get him down to Cayman Brac, our little rock in the ocean, there are meds that they cannot get there. They cannot get them there. So make sure, especially if you're going somewhere long-term, if you're gonna stay for a certain amount of time and you don't have enough with you, check with the hospital, and the doctors can communicate between themselves too. You know, to see, they can refer you, or they can at least get you a name of a neurologist or, you know, whomever at the other end to assist in case of an emergency. The time zone thing, that one is huge. Because again, with like the carbidopa, levodopa, that has to be taken, and we all know what happens if you don't take it exactly as timed, right? You don't move. So that is something that you need to talk about, bless you, with your doctor. Before you leave, tell him, I'm going to be on this 14-hour flight. Tell me, how do you want me to take my Cinemet, my Ongentys, whatever it is you can take. Are you guys tired of listening to me talk yet? Have you guys ever heard of a hospital safety guide? I thought this was the coolest thing too. Again, from the UK. This is something that we all need to download, because the hospital safety guide is a guide that you carry with you as a PD patient when you go to a hospital and they don't know squat from apple butter about Parkinson's. For example, this medicine that's on here is timed. I need to have this at this time. And it has all of the different little things that hospital staff need to know when you are admitted as a PD patient. I thought that was really cool. So I'll send you the link, Margaret, and maybe we can put it somewhere nice. Okay, some of these things we already answered. So let people know that you have Parkinson's or are traveling with someone with Parkinson's. Ask for a wheelchair at the airport, whether you need one or not. This one is good. Try to add a rest day for the trip and schedule long layovers when possible. Medicine in a separate bag. If you do have if you've had the DBS surgery, considering the certificate, that one I'm not familiar with. Global entry and TSA pre-check. Do we know what those are? Do you guys know what they are? Okay. Right now, by the way, the cost on those is like $22 difference between TSA and global entry. They're both valid for 5 years. One costs between $75 to $85, depending on when you get it. That's the TSA. And the global entry is $100.
How long does it usually take to global entry?
Global entry, you know, the passport office and all of these entities that go under that umbrella. 6 to 8 weeks for passports now, okay? And global entry, it's luck of the draw, honestly. You know, depending on where you live, depending on if you can get like to Dulles. We got hours in Dulles and it wasn't that long to go up for an appointment. I've had clients that have gotten them within a couple of weeks. And then other people that have been waiting for like 6 months.
Is it a lot better to get global entry?
I think so, because global entry includes TSA PreCheck. So global entry, remember, TSA PreCheck is strictly a security feature that allows you to go through the TSA line, the security checks, and not, in some cases, not have to take your shoes off, not have to take your laptop out of your bag. Global entry is also a document check. So when you come in to the US from an international destination, then you do not have to stand in that myriad of document control lines to get your passport checked and go in. Now, having said that, things are getting a whole lot better too. Because now the lines of getting in, when you come in from overseas to the US, now they're not all manual. So now they actually have kiosks for the regular folk that don't have global entry, which makes it a little bit easier if you know how to use them. So, you know, there is that, always that magic if. Mobile passport control. I saw on Instagram or a TikTok on it and I was like, oh, for God's sake, they're making it feel like it's like some new thing. It's been around forever. Mobile passport control is an app. You can download it on your phone. It has all of your passport info on it. And you should be able to show it, boom, you're cool, you're so the best. Not every airport has mobile passport control. So just keep those things in mind when you're looking at options like that. Alternatives to flying. Airports can be stressful for anyone with or without Parkinson's. And again, planes generally don't have much space to move around. Traveling by train, car, or ship can tend to be easier and ultimately more enjoyable than flying. This new generation, which I am not a part, but my grandkids are, especially in Europe, it is considered very to fly in between countries. It's all about the train. So if you're going from France to Italy, from Portugal to Italy, if you're taking a train. Less carbon emissions, less carbon footprint, it's all good for the soul. We're at the last scheduled slide now, unless you want me to go on, but trips are expensive. And I just actually was reading through some trade journals yesterday, and the International Associations of Travel is IATAN. All the airlines of the world got together in Dubai, and the consensus is that airfares are going up. Even though most airlines had unsurpassed revenue over the past year or so, they cannot continue to bear the burden of the cost of jet fuel, of all of the carbon emission rules that have been put in place by all the governments, so airfare is going up. Are we gonna stop traveling? No. Are we gonna be more savvy about it? Yes. But when you're getting ready to put down $10,000, $20,000. So when I think of myself, even on a good day, if I'm making $500 on a consult fee, how many damn consult fees do I have to sell to go on a $10,000 trip? So you had best know that I'm going to protect that investment when I make it. Because what's the rule now with most things in travel? Non-refundable. You pay right away. You gotta pay within 24 hours and everything is non-refundable. Now, if you die, then it's refundable. Sometimes if you get someone nice at the airline. But sometimes it's not. If it's non-refundable, it's non-refundable. So protect your investment. Travel with peace of mind, and you buy travel insurance. You don't have to buy it from me. I don't care who you buy it through. But you need to have it with you. So we work with a company called Allianz. Allianz Global Assistance. Believe it or not, they're actually local. They're on mainland. Which makes it nice because just in case there's a claim that's not being handled correctly, we know where they live. I actually had a client that went and sat in their lobby. There was some kind of a paperwork delay with a claim that he had filed. And he goes, Stella, can I do this? And I'm like, I'm not gonna tell you you can't, but you want. Got it done. So what does travel insurance cover? Typically the coverage is gonna be for trip cancellation, trip interruption, emergency medical and dental coverage, emergency transportation, travel and baggage delay, and baggage loss. Pretty standard. You choose the level of coverage that you want. The higher the level of coverage, the higher the premium. Typically, travel insurance is going to cost between 7 to 10% of a trip. A good quality travel insurance product. Credit card companies will tell you, it's included, it's one of your benefits. Read the fine print. Read the fine print. And let's say that they'll cover your airline ticket. What are they covering? Are they covering trip delay? Are they covering if you have to cancel because of an illness or whatever? Read the fine print. Did you know that Medicare does not cover you for things outside the United States?
Yes.
What kind of educated bunch here today?
We're on a cruise ship.
Learn the hard way.
We're on a cruise ship.
Learn the hard way.
So now the good news is that if you're traveling to Europe, because of their socialized medicine, when you go to a hospital, to an emergency room or whatever, the costs are minimal if there are any at all, which is incredible. But don't think like we do now, I got Medicare, I got a supplement, I'm good to go. Protect yourself, mostly protect that investment if you have to cancel because you're sick. So people say, but I'm already sick. I have Parkinson's, I'm sick. How can I get an insurance company? So here's the deal. Most insurance companies will allow coverage for pre-existing conditions, provided you purchase your policy within 14 days of your initial deposit. Huge. Huge. Because again, what's the goal? Get rid of the stress, travel with peace of mind. It will cover it if the policy is purchased within 14 days of your initial deposit. So let's say you come to me and you say, Stella, I'm gonna book that bill up. Let's just go for we'll go for the really expensive one, the $27,000 one for the week, okay? And all I need is $1,000 deposit. That's all they want. So you give me the deposit today. If you decide in 7 months when the final payment is due, well, you know what? I never got that insurance. It's not going to cover you if your cancellation is due to a Parkinson's, to a whatever. Are you canceling because your spouse might have Parkinson's? Man, it's a pre-existing condition. So do it within the 14 days. Yes.
The other thing is that you need to tell them if you do have one, because we've always had the year policy.
The annual policy.
Because we used to travel more. And one day I was just reading something and it said, if you find out, I didn't think to tell them because we had the policy before I had Parkinson's. And luckily I read an article that said you need to tell them, and sure enough, when we called Allianz, they said, yes, you have to pay a rider if you know you have this condition.
That
specific
is, yeah,
condition.
that typically, that's a good point.
So
I don't
it
run
just
across
say
too
I
many
thought-
people that do the annual policies.
Well, if
um,
you travel
Yeah,
frequently,
but it's not so much that, it's because the coverage is limited on your annual policies. And so, again, depending on the kinds of trips that you're taking all year long. So we do have clients that do annual as well. But we always try to compare before we sell an annual to say, how many trips are you planning on doing this year? And, you know, how many bags do you take, and, you know, how long do you stay and all that? But that's a good point. Where do you buy it? How much does it cost? Again, we talked about that. Now, where do you buy it? You can buy travel insurance. Most travel agents are licensed. We do have to go through special licensing to be able to sell insurance. You can buy it directly from an insurance company, Allianz. Again, it's just, again, you're in shopping mode. And so just be sure that you're comparing apples to apples when you're shopping for insurance policies. Okay. I think that it is 2:50 and I cannot believe that I have talked for this long. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that I've answered many questions for you. If not, I am available. Shoot me an email. I have my business cards out there. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about what I do, and I'm very passionate about this Parkinson's community. This is incredible. Gary and Margaret, I mean, you guys are amazing. Thank you for putting it together. Thank you.
Stella, we want to thank you. Thank you all for being here. I want to remind everybody to talk to Rick and Omari. They're here from Happy and Afforded to learn about some of the therapeutics that they have to offer. Check our events calendar. Next week is bowling on Tuesday, 11th. We have a mini med conference July 17th with doctors from VCU. So a little something for everyone throughout the summer, and we'll continue things like this. We almost needed a part 2 with Stella. You all were really engaged, but holler if we can do anything. We're here to support you. Thank you. Thank you, Stella.
Okay.
Thank you.